Ken, when did you start feeling anxious?
So I think I probably started feeling it the most when I was about 9, when my mum got ill and it kind of affected me really, really bad. And then as I got older, I started noticing it more in school and it was affecting me more. And slowly, slowly, I just noticed the symptoms and it kind of just took over my life to a certain extent. And by the time I was about 15, 16, I wasn't in school, basically was locked in my room every single day and I was in severe depression.
So everyone feels anxious at some point in their life, but how do you know when things are becoming slightly overwhelming?
I think everyone suffers with anxiety to a certain extent, whether it's right at the bottom or right at the top. I think it's normal. It's just like a feeling. You can be scared, you can be happy. Anxiety is just a feeling that you get. And you can have it when you're excited about something, absolutely anything. I think for me, I always suffered with it a little bit. I think I was quite an anxious person. I always kind of cared about what everyone thought, and I was always so cautious of everything around me. It made me anxious. And I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. They say with sport, anxiety is the best thing, which pushes you to do well. And when I used to play football, my anxiety would push me to want to do well, push myself to that extra limit. And I think that's why I've done well. But on the other end, it did get to the overwhelming stage where it did take over my life. And it got to the point where I was in depression. And at that point, you've got to take a step back. And I thought, right, this isn't on now. Like, what has happened to me? I'm not going out. I've got no friends. I didn't do any qualifications at school. I've completely took myself out and I'm sitting in this room.
What made you decide to talk to somebody about what was going on?
The list got longer and longer and longer of the things I couldn't do, and I wasn't doing things that I enjoyed doing anymore. My head was just all over the place, and my parents knew that I needed to get help, and I said, you know what, I'm going to go do it. And at first I really struggled talking, and I can understand why people struggle, because you're put in a room with a stranger who doesn't know you, who doesn't understand you, and you think they're asking me all these personal questions that make me feel anxious even more, and they want me to talk about it. Completely understand it, but that minute you get over that and you start talking to these professionals, they know how to guide you. And the minute I'd done that, I started to feel like I was taking very small baby steps forward. Not a lot, it took a while, but that was the most important thing, that I knew that progression was being made. And then it started rolling.
It sounds like there was a lot going on for you. How did that feel day to day?
I get obsessive about things, and I had to pre-plan everything I was doing. I had to know every single thing I was doing for the next week, day to day, and that I could do it. Otherwise, I would start freaking out. So, for example, if I knew there was maybe a wedding coming up or a meal that I had to go to that was in 10 days, I would be literally freaking out this whole week coming up to it, because I felt like I couldn't do it. And unless I could cancel it, I wouldn't be able to get on with my week. And I had to know that in a day, everything that I was doing, I could do. And it got to the point where I couldn't really do anything anymore, because I was just saying, I can't do this, I can't do that, I can't do that. And once I accomplished it and realised, you know what, you can get through it. And there were situations where I pushed myself and I used the techniques that who I was seeing was helping me to get through it. And I was like, right, if I can get through that, push myself a little bit more. And slowly, one by one, I was battering away at these things that I thought I couldn't do. And the list started to get smaller.
What's your advice on who to talk to and where to get support?
I would say a close friend, family, your parents, a guardian, anyone there that you trust around you, a GP. But obviously Childline is there 24/7, online, on the phone, anytime. But you just someone there that you feel that isn't going to judge you, you can open out to, and just be honest, because that's the most important thing, getting it out of your chest. Because once them thoughts get stuck in there, you need to talk about it, and then you can be guided the right way.
Boys are often told to man up and stay strong, which can often make it harder to open up. What advice would you give to boys?
I think that's the problem. A lot of boys do think that that is what they have to do, but it's not. I was in a very, very boisterous environment, playing football every single day. There's so many like egos in this one changing room, and to feel like you could open up about something that I did, you would have never thought you could. But I've always been a very sensitive person. I was one of the first people in my group of friends to open up about something like this, and it was hard because I thought no one had a clue what I was talking about. I thought they're not going to know what any of this is, and I did tell a couple of boys, and they were like, they wasn't sure. A lot of people do suffer with it as well, and there's no reason to bottle it up and not talk to anyone. Why? You should talk about it. You should open up.
What other ways helped you cope with anxiety?
When I was seeing like my therapist, I saw so many. They all gave me completely different tips, and some of them worked, some of them didn't work as much. But along the way, I took certain things that worked for me that I still do now. And what I learnt with myself is it never lasts more than 2 to 3 minutes in general. And when you feel like you have a panic attack. You need to get through that and do something that calms you down. And I always used to breathe to 5 and breathe out for 7, because that extra 2 seconds was where you wasn't thinking about it, and it kind of just calmed you down. And by the 4th or 5th time, I was always a bit more relaxed.
Does anxiety ever go away?
I used to have it to quite a high level. Now I don't have it as much, but sometimes I notice it come back and forth. But it's just learning how to deal with it and accepting it. It's just a feeling. It's just like fear. It's just like happiness. You get anxiety with everything, and just learning, if it comes, accept it, deal with it, and it will leave.
How does it feel being here today?
It's hard, you know. I think something like this brings out my anxiety more than ever. And sitting here at times, I feel a little bit anxious. I feel the feeling. I know the feeling so well, but I've learned to channel it and not let it get in the way of things I want to do. And it's not a bad thing. So it's good, and I'm happy to be. It's something I feel very passionate about.
What advice would you give to people who are feeling anxious right now?
I'd probably say be positive, and it's never too late, because to look where I was at a few years ago, I genuinely was sitting there thinking, how am I ever going to get a job? What am I going to do in my life? I've not got barely any qualifications. Everything I loved I was doing when I wasn't playing football anymore. And if you're positive and you have the right people around you and realise that it can change and things will get better, you can turn things around. And to think that I was there a few years ago, and just in mindset where I am now, I've accomplished so much, and I don't want to stop, and I want to keep doing it. And it shows to people it's yourself. You can do it, and you can push yourself. Obviously not too much where you're making yourself unwell, but you can push yourself and make things happen.
Thank you so much, Kem, for coming in today.
My pleasure.
See you next time.